Hello everyone, this is the third lecture in DC to AC converters, and in this lecture I'll discuss about the analysis of single phase edge bridge inverter and pulse width modulation techniques to operate a single phase edge bridge inverter. So in the last class I discussed about the half bridge inverter and the single phase full bridge inverter. So as you can see that if you are having RL load, so the current will be something like this. If we want to plot the exact waveform of the current, so whenever positive voltage is applied, the slope of the current will be positive, and whenever negative voltage across the load is applied, the slope of the current will be negative. Okay, so it is linearly rising whenever positive voltage across the RL load is applied, and it will be falling from some maximum value to minimum value whenever the voltage across the load is negative. Okay, so based on the voltage waveform and the current waveform, we can have different switches conducting in different interval. Okay, so you can see that in this interval both voltage and output current, both output voltage and output current are positive. So in that scenario, you can see that this S1 switch and S2 switch is turned on, so the voltage across the load is positive, and also current flowing through this direction, okay, marked by the red line. So we have placed one capacitor here, as you have seen in the last class, that it is drawing the second harmonic current from the input voltage, which causes non-ideality in the output. Okay, and so it is drawing the harmonic current from the input. So you can see here that the current is flowing through the red mark marked in this circuit. Okay, so the active part of this circuit will be marked is marked with the red lines. Okay, so in this interval S1 and S2 conducts, output current is positive and output voltage is positive, and the load is stored energy. Whenever positive voltage across the inductor is applied, it will store the energy. You can see this interval. So in this interval you can see that the current is positive, the voltage is negative. Okay, so the positive current actually will be flowing through these diodes D3 and D4. So you can see that the current is flowing through this path, so current is still positive, but D3 and D4 will take that current. Okay, and the voltage across this will be negative, so you can see here negative voltage will apply across this load. Okay, so this is short interval of time, and in this interval the output voltage is negative and the output current is positive. So IO is positive, VO is negative, load releases energy. Okay, whatever energy is stored in this, the energy will be released. Now in third interval, you can see here that S3 and S4 are conducting. Okay, now the current is negative, so one direction of current is positive, another direction of current will be negative. So here the current is negative, the applied voltage across the load will be negative. Now the power will be transferred from source to the load. Okay, in this interval of time, if you multiply both voltage and current, you will get the positive value. Similarly, in this interval, you can see here that S1 and S2 are off now. The current will pass through these diodes D1 and D2. Okay, so the active circuit is again marked with the red lines. So you can see here that IO is negative, VO is positive. So product of these two will be negative. Load release. So in this actually load releases the energy. So here you can see that output voltage is positive, current is negative. This is again short interval of time. So the H bridge inverter is working in 4 different modes that you can explain with the help of these figures. Okay. Now if you want to calculate the exact value of the current, output current, we have to do some mathematics. So here the load current is rising from some minimum value to the some maximum value, okay, whenever positive voltage is applied across the load, then it is falling from that maximum value to again the same minimum value whenever negative voltage is applied. So you can see from 0 to t by 2 the positive voltage is applied, so current is rising linearly, exponentially like this. And whenever the voltage across the load in the interval t by 2 to t is negative, the current will fall from that maximum value to again the same minimum value, then it will rise again. Okay, you will see that this minimum value will be equal to this maximum value. Okay, so I max is nothing but equal to minus I min. Okay, so this current actually will have two part, one is forced response, another is natural response, as you already learned in the circuit classes. So forced response will be VDC by R. So if we add these two, actually forced response and natural response, we are getting something like this. Okay, so DC voltage applies is VDC and resistance is R, so this is VDC upon R. Another part is this exponential part, that is AE to the power minus T upon tau. Tau we can define for RL circuit. Okay, tau is the time constant. So this expression is for time 0 to T by 2. Okay, similarly for this portion of the current, that is between T by 2 to T, we can again write the output current expression. So this is again minus VDC upon R plus B E. Now time axis is shifted from t is equal to 0 to t is equal to t by 2. So we have to write the time t minus t by 2 upon tau, where t is greater than t by 2. Okay, so t by 2 time t is lying between t by 2 and t. So these two will comprise one switching period or uh, one period. Okay, so now we know that when t is equal to 0, the current will be I min, and when t is equal to t by 2, the current will be I max. So using these two values, we can find what will be the constant A and B. Okay, so in these expressions actually the A and B are constant which need to be determined. So when we substitute t is equal to 0, we are getting VDC upon R plus A e to the power 0 is equal to I min. From this expression we can find what will be A. So this is 1 into A, so we are getting A is equal to nothing but VDC upon R minus, so you can see here A is equal to I min minus VDC upon R. Okay, similarly if we substitute t is equal to t by 2, so in this expression you can see that I is equal to I max in that case. Okay, so again minus VDC upon R plus B, if we substitute here t is equal to t by 2, so this term again becomes 0, so this term will become 1. Okay, so B into 1, so we can find what is the B value, that is I max plus VDC upon R. If we substitute these values in these expressions, we can write down the expression for the current. So output current is VDC upon R plus I min minus VDC upon R e to the power minus t upon tau, and t lying between 0 to t by 2, that is for half period. Now next half period, the expression for the output current will be minus VDC upon R plus I max plus VDC upon R e to the power minus t upon t by 2 upon tau. Okay, so this is the complete expression for output current. Now we know that this I max will be equal to minus I min. Okay, so if we substitute in these expressions, I max is equal to minus I min, we can solve, and the expression for the currents we will get something like this. Okay, VDC upon R 1 minus e to the power minus t upon 2 tau 1 plus e to the power minus t upon 2 tau again. Okay, here t is missing, you can write here. So this is the expression for minimum and maximum value of the current. Okay, now if you want to find the RMS value of this current, we know the expression for I. Okay, you can actually integrate in root mean square, you can integrate in 1/2 period, you will get the same value. Okay, so 1 upon t upon 2, 0 to t upon 2, Now the current expression for 1/2 period is VDC upon R plus this value. Okay, you can square it and you can integrate it. Okay, you will get the RMS value of the exact output current. If the switches are ideal, the power supplied by the source must be the same as absorbed by the load. So power supplied from the DC source, as already we have seen in the last class, that it is nothing but product of input voltage, that DC voltage and DC current. Now power absorbed by the load will be RMS value of the current you can find from this expression, multiply by R, that will be the power absorbed by the load. Okay, so if you equate these two, out of these four parameters, any one parameters you can calculate if other three parameters are given in the problem. Okay, now if we summarize, last time we also have done some Fourier series analysis of the output voltage because it was non-sinusoidal waveform. So we have decomposed into fundamental component and uh, harmonic component. So output voltage was Vn sin n omega t, where Vn was the magnitude, so it is 4VDC upon n pi. Okay, all these uh, explanations and derivations are equally valid for half bridge inverter, but in that case we have to replace VDC by 2 VDC by 2. Okay, all other expressions will remain the same. So here Vn will be 4 VDC upon n pi. Now output current, it is lagging by theta n. Theta n was given by minus tan inverse n omega L upon R. Okay, and current is given by, so amplitude of each current, it is given by Vn upon impedance. Impedance was on square root R square plus n omega L square. Okay, now we can find what will be the power. So this is in terms of RMS value. Okay, In upon root 2 square times R. If we substitute n is equal to 1, we will get the fundamental component of the power. Similarly, for other harmonic components, we can find what will be the power because of that component. Okay, similarly you can see what will be the RMS value of the fundamental voltage. So this is the peak voltage of nth harmonic. If we substitute n is equal to 1, we will get the peak value of the fundamental component, and if we divide that value by root 2, we will get the RMS value of the fundamental component. So it is 0.9 VDC. If you want to find for half bridge, you have to replace this VDC to VDC by 2. So in that case, you have seen that it was 0.45 VDC. Okay. Similarly, we can find what will be the total harmonic distortion. So it was all the harmonic component square, and we have to take square root of that divided by fundamental RMS component. Okay, or in other words, we can say that if we remove from the output waveform, if we remove the fundamental component, we will have the harmonic component and divide by the RMS value of the fundamental component. Similarly, we can define total harmonic distortion for the current. Okay, now we are having one problem. A square wave inverter has a DC source of 125 volt, an output frequency of 60 Hz, and an RL series load with R is equal to 20 ohm and L is equal to 25 millihenry. Now we have to determine an expression for the load current, RMS load current and average load current. So you can see here VDC upon R is 6.25. Tau we can find L upon R, that is time constant, 25 millihenry upon 20 ohm. So it is nothing but 1.25 millisecond. Now T upon tau we can find, that is 13.33. Okay, so if we use this expression, I max is equal to minus I min VDC upon R 1 minus e to the power minus t upon 2 tau plus upon 1 plus e to the power minus t upon 2 tau. Okay, if you substitute that value here, again here you have to write t. So I max will be nothing but VDC upon R 6.25. Substitute all these values. Okay, you will get I max to be 6.25 ampere. Similarly, I min will be minus of that, so minus 6.25 ampere. Okay, so output expression, the current expression you can write from this VDC upon R plus I min. Once you know the I min and I max values, substitute in these So in this you will get the expression for the output current. Okay, now you have to calculate the RMS load current, that already we have seen. Substitute all these values, we will get this value for the RMS current. Similarly, average load current, so output power is known, so that will be equal to the input power. So from there you can find what will be the average current that is supplied. Okay, now to control full bridge inverter, we are having different control scheme. So square wave inverter has uh, just now we have discussed about the square wave operation of the full bridge inverter. Okay, but the square wave inverter has major disadvantage of low frequency harmonic contents. Okay, you can see from here that each harmonic, so for example third harmonic 4 VDC upon pi, that will be the peak magnitude of that harmonic. Fifth harmonic will be 4 VDC upon 5 pi. So it is having considerable amount of low order harmonics if we are operating single phase H bridge inverter with square wave operation. Okay, so there is an effective way to control the harmonic content in the output, and that is known as pulse width modulation techniques. Okay, so this actually have this will achieve the sinusoidal output with minimum harmonic. Again, if you are using filter, then we'll get the pure sinusoidal waveform at the output. Okay, however, the main disadvantage in pulse width modulation is there will be higher switching losses because the switches are turned on and turned off a number of times in a time period. Okay, so commonly used technique for controlling power electronic switches in almost every application, you will find that the inverters are operated with pulse width modulation techniques. The control to control the average voltage fed to the load by varying the turn on off switches. The longer the switch is on, the higher the output voltage. Okay, so by controlling actually the time at which the switches are on and off, we can control the magnitude of the output voltage. Okay, the switching frequency is normally few kilohertz and up to 10th of kilohertz. So this is important. More the switching frequency, we will have better quality output waveform will get, but again we will have more switching losses in that case. Okay, so you can see in all this pulse width modulation, so this is known as sine pulse width modulation. Here we are comparing a reference signal with a high frequency carrier. Okay, so this reference signal actually what we want to generate, so this is the same sine wave form that we want at the output. So it is having the same frequency, like it is having 50 hertz or 60 hertz. Now the triangular waveform, it is of higher frequency. Okay, so actually the output frequency will be determined by the reference signal frequency, and the switching frequency will be determined by the frequency of the triangular waveform. Okay, by comparing these two, we can generate the gate pulses that will be applied to the switching devices. Okay, so this is the reference signal, this is the carrier. Okay, this is the carrier signal. In carrier, the frequency is very high, and the reference signal will have the same frequency as that of the output. For example, if you want output frequency to be 50 hertz, so this reference signal will be of 50 hertz. Okay, and now this carrier actually it is having a very high frequency. Okay, say if it is having 50 hertz, this may have if you multiply it 30, so maybe having 15 kilohertz, something like that. Okay, so we are getting these type of pulses that is applied to the gate of the switches. So in this actually the sinusoidal input, that is reference, is compared to the triangular carrier. The resulting comparison is the pulses that is fed to the switches. If we zoom this, if we zoom this reference and triangular carrier waveform, so you can see that this is the sinusoidal waveform. Now the carrier triangular waveform is like this. So this is the zoom version. Okay, we are not getting the complete cycle. So you can see whenever this reference is above the carrier frequency, whenever the magnitude of this reference is more than the magnitude of the carrier signal, okay, we will generate logic 1. Okay, so you can see here that this is the intersection point. So from this to this point we are having reference signal above the carrier signal. So in that case the logic is 1. Here the logic is 0, okay, because carrier is above the reference signal. Now again from here to here you can see that the reference signal is above the carrier signal, so again logic 1 will be generated. Okay, so based on this we can generate the pulses that is applied to the switching devices in the H-bridge inverter. Okay, so this is logic 1, this is logic 0. So based on that we can design the pulse width modulation. So you can see one thing, you can observe that the pulses in the middle will have more width in comparison to the pulses at the initial part. Okay, so that's why the magnitude actually is more in the middle part than in comparison to the initial part. So this is the bipolar waveform. If that pulse is applied, so actually if we can see the high pulse that we can apply switch 1 and switch 3, just if we see the configuration. So if we apply S1 and S2, okay, if we apply the high pulses logic 1 to S1 and S2, so the output voltage will be plus VDC. Okay, and if we apply logic 0 to these switches, okay, so whenever logic 0 is there we have to apply the gate pulses to switch S3 and S4. In that case the voltage across the load will be minus VDC, so it is changing between plus VDC and minus VDC. Okay, so it is changing plus VDC and minus VDC. So plus VDC minus VDC plus VDC minus VDC. Okay, logic 1 is applied to switch in such a way that the output voltage is positive, and logic 0 is applied to the switches in such a way that the output voltage is negative. Okay, whenever positive voltage is applied across the load the current will rise like this. Whenever negative voltage is applied the current will fall. Then again positive voltage is applied, the current is rising. Then again negative voltage is applied, the current will fall, something like this. Okay, so the current output current will be looking something like this. Now there are certain terminology that you must aware of. These are important terminology in pulse width modulation of H-bridge inverter. So Fourier series of the inverter output has a fundamental frequency which is the same as the reference signal. Harmonic frequency exists at around multiple of switching frequency. Okay, if switching frequency say it is 10 kilohertz, then the harmonics will be shifted at 10 kilohertz, 20 kilohertz, 30 kilohertz, multiple of that. Okay, so this is the advantage. Low order harmonics will be absent in the output, and higher order harmonics will be like band at switching frequency and multiple of switching frequency. So high frequency harmonic component we can actually filter out very easily with small rating filters. Okay, now we define frequency modulation, MF, that is the ratio of carrier frequency to the reference signal. Okay, if MF increases the frequency which the harmonic circle will increase, but the switching losses will also increase. Okay, the amplitude modulation, which is defined as the ratio of amplitude of the reference signal and carrier signal. Normally you will find that amplitude modulation it is less than equal to 1. Okay, and the output voltage will linearly will be proportional to the modulation amplitude modulation. Okay, so MF is defined as frequency of triangular carrier waveform, frequency of reference sine waveform, and amplitude modulation it is the ratio of reference signal magnitude and carrier signal magnitude. Okay, and it is normally given by MA is between 0 to 1. So fundamental component magnitude actually it is proportional to the amplitude modulation. More this value, more will be the output voltage. Okay, so here you can see that there is a comparison between mf is equal to 21 and mf is equal to 41. Okay, so frequency actually, so amplitude modulation it is 0.9. Okay, it is less than 1. And frequency modulation, you can see here it is 21, here it is 41. So here we are getting less number of pulses, here we are getting more number of pulses. So you can see the effect of mf on the output current. So current is looking almost sinusoidal waveform. Okay, but more will be mf, there will be more switching losses because the switches will be turned on and turned off more number of times. Okay, and that will result in more losses in the switching. So this is the bipolar waveform. We are having one reference signal, we are having one carrier signal. Whenever reference signal is above the carrier signal, we generate plus VDC. Whenever it is lower than the carrier signal, we generate minus VDC. So here you can see from this point to this point, the reference signal is above the carrier signal and we will generate plus VDC. Now from this point to this point, carrier is above the reference, so we will generate minus VDC. Okay, following the same logic, we can generate output waveform like this. So here you can observe that at the middle we are having more uh, width of the pulses are more in positive direction. Okay, during minus VDC, here you can observe, we if we want to generate this, the pulse width in negative direction is more. Okay, so these are the some of the simulated waveforms. You can see that switch S1 and S2, they are having the gate pulses something like this, and S3 and S4 they are having the gate pulses like this. So this is the bipolar pulse width modulation. So if we are having the pulse of width delta k, we can again find the output voltage based on that pulse. Okay, now again the same, you can see the S1 and S2 switches, they are turned on whenever reference signal is above, and for S3 and S4 it is marked with the red line. So you can see this is actually positive waveform is given, negative will be this one. Okay, so this is positive, then this is negative, then again this is positive, this, then this will be negative. Okay, now if you want to generate unipolar instead of bipolar so waveform, so we have to apply two reference signal. Okay, so you can see we are having the same triangular waveform again, and the reference signal is something like this. Okay, so we are having one reference signal like sine wave, then we are having negative of that reference signal. Okay, that means this reference signal is actually shifted by an angle of 180 degree from the original reference signal. Okay, so based on these two reference signal and carrier, we can generate the pulses. Okay, based on these logics, whenever v reference is greater than v carrier, we have to turn on S1. Okay, whenever v reference is less than v carrier, we have to turn on S4. Okay, so you can see here that they are actually uh, they are working in complementary fashion. Okay, similarly minus v reference whenever greater than v carrier, we have to turn on S3, and whenever it is less than v carrier, we have to turn on S2. So these two devices are again working in complementary fashion. Okay, and the output generated, you can see here that the voltage is now changing between 0 to VDC. Okay, so swing in the output voltage is not that much, so dV by dt will be smaller in case of unipolar pulse width modulation. So again these are some of the simulated waveform. So this is the reference signal sine omega t, this is minus sine omega t, and we are having this carrier which is compared with this, and based on the logic we can actually generate the these output waveform. These are the actually the gate pulses that is applied to the controllable switches. So based on this logic, we can check what will be the output voltage. Okay, whenever S1 S2 on, VDC will be the terminal voltage at point A. So this is actually point A, this is point A, and this is point B. So this point actually it is VA, it is plus VDC. So S1 S2 on VDC, terminal B voltage is 0, so VA minus VB will be VDC. S3 S4 on terminal voltage A is 0, terminal voltage B is VDC, so 0 minus VDC we are getting minus VDC. If S1 S3 on or S4 S2 on, we are getting output voltage to be 0. Okay, so square wave switching scheme, if we compare with pulse width modulation scheme, so square wave switching scheme control only the frequency of the inverter output. Output magnitude is controlled by controlling the magnitude of input DC voltage source. Okay, so actually you have to vary the input DC voltage to get the variable output in case of square wave operation. Okay, however, in pulse width modulation, we can control both frequency and magnitude of the output voltage by controlling the pulse width. Okay, so output magnitude is controlled by controlling the magnitude of input DC voltage source. So in square wave, this requires additional control system which introduce complexity to the inverter design. Moreover, this scheme contains significant value of low order harmonic, that is third harmonic, fifth, seventh, and so on. Okay, so square wave operation suffers from two drawbacks. One is the output voltage. If you want to control, you have to control the input DC voltage. Okay, so you have to add some additional circuits. Another factor is it is having a lot of low order harmonic component in the output voltage, which is difficult to filter out. In pulse width modulation switching scheme, it allows the control of magnitude and frequency of the output. So input DC side inverter is uncontrolled. The result in harmonic voltage range of switching frequency and higher, which can easily filter. So in this actually the harmonics have been shifted to the switching frequency, and they can be easily filtered out from the output. However, the main drawback in pulse width modulation technique is there will be more switching losses in this case. Okay, thank you.